The National Registry of Historic Places is the official list of the nation's historic places worth preservation. National Park Service. It was authorized under the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. Since then, many sites and buildings throughout the United States meeting certain historical criteria are nominated for acceptance on the National Registry. Linwood is a village and is part of Northbridge as well as Uxbridge, and also touches North Uxbridge. These towns are located in Worcester County, Massachusetts. Although not incorporated, Linwood Village has its own post office and zip code. The area of Linwood was predominantly settled by French Canadians. These Quebecois, as they were from Quebec, Canada, migrated to the Blackstone Valley looking for work in the mill. They found employment in the Whiten Mills, of which the Linwood Cotton Mill was one of a series of small family-owned textile manufacturing sites. The Whiten Cotton Mills at Linwood represent 19th century industrial architecture. And behind me, as you see, to my left is the Linwood Mill as it is today, and to the right would be one of the tenements buildings that housed the workers at the time. We are standing on the grounds of the Linwood Cotton Mill, located on Linwood Avenue, part of the town of Northbridge, Massachusetts. The Linwood Mill is listed on the National Historic Registry. It is the central location for today's talk on the Linwood Historic District. The district encompasses 37 acres in the Blackstone Valley National Corridor, which is the oldest industrialized region in the country. The Linwood Mill was built by the Whiten family, of which the adjoining town of Whitensville is named. In 1866, James Fletcher Whiten and Charles Pinckney Whiten, they were the sons of Colonel Paul and Betsy Fletcher Whiten. They were involved in the textile industry since 1809. The mills along the Blackstone River began with the Slater Mill in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. The two mentioned Whiten sons were the ones who built the Linwood Cotton Mill. The other mills in the area, besides the Linwood Mill, are the Whitensville Mill, the Crown and Eagle Mill in Uxbridge, as well as mills in Rockdale, which were all owned by the Whiten family. The Linwood Mill is located in the Linwood Historic District. As I said, covers a 37-acre area. The Linwood Mill is bordered by Linwood Avenue, historically Railroad Avenue, and Maple Court. Linwood Village is situated between nearby village of Whitensville, Northbridge, and the town of Uxbridge. All that existed in the Linwood Mill area village prior to the mill construction was a railroad depot, and essentially undeveloped land with a few houses in the area. The Whiten family owned most of the textile industry in the area. The purchase of the land years earlier enabled them to build another mill with several outbuildings. The damming of the Mumford River, as you can see behind me, just above and to the east of the mill, was the water storage, essentially a man-made pond for use of water power for the mill. The dam behind me still stands, as does the tail race, or the channel for conveying water and industrial waste away from a water wheel further downstream. The Linwood property was built to process cotton and produced cambrics, satines, and shirting fabric. The mill is a 3.5-story structure with additions added in subsequent years. The mill switched to steam power in addition to water power, as a boiler was added in subsequent years, contained in a separate boiler building. The Guertins later added a full addition to the northwest side of the building to house new steam-powered machinery for production on a larger scale. Directly behind me is one of the outbuildings and the other side of the Linwood mill, as well as example of the tenement houses that are here. Another location of importance of the Linwood Historic District include the housing for workers built around the mill. Locals have recounted the use of a large bell in the tower that would ring for workers to report to work. There is at least one large tenement house that was built for workers and their families at the corner of Linwood Avenue and Maple Court, and several duplex-style houses on Pine Court. The typical style found in the Worcester County area is that of Greek Revival architecture. The houses on Maple Court were designed for mid-level management workers at the mill, and each contained an L on the back of the side of the house. Directly behind me, to my left, is another freestanding building on the property of the Linwood Mill. It is a brick 2.5-story storehouse. In front of the building, which we shall see later on Linwood Avenue, is an office building for administrative and payroll functions that were used at the time. The building is of the same era, the outbuilding, and contains complementary architectural features as found in the facade of the Linwood Mill. Directly northeast of the mill, where we are standing, is a train depot. The depot on the Providence-Worcester line was original to the area prior to the building of the Linwood Cotton Mill. The area was designed as a small depot village. The Providence and Worcester Railroad opened in the area in 1847. Due to fire, the original depot had to be rebuilt. It was heavily used by the Guertins for freight delivery. The Guertins also ran a small rail line along Linwood Avenue between the Linwood and Whitinsville mills. This line carried freight and materials to and from the Whitinsville mill and the depot. The historic Victorian Mansion, a nationally registered historic site on Linwood Avenue, northwest of the mill, was home to James Fletcher Guertin. Located in the Linwood Historic District, it has a 13,000 square foot mansard Victorian, is what it was, on 5 acres. The Victorian was indicative of the Guertin prosperity at the time. The property was later sold after the Guertin era and used as an inn. The repurposing of the Victorian mansion had a natural draw in that the older building has an economic advantage. It had a fire in 2022 and sustained massive damage. The structure remains, but has not yet been restored from the fire loss. Directly behind me and to my left is the Good Shepherd Parish and School that was built on land donated by James E. Guertin on December 12, 1904. The Paroisse de Bon Pasteur, or Good Shepherd Parish, was located in Linwood on the North Uxbridge end. Good Shepherd Parish, while not registered in the Linwood Historic District as a historic site, its importance to the district can't be understated. The church was necessary as there was no French-speaking Roman Catholic church in the area for the French-Canadian workers. which Whiten recognized that his workers were largely French-Canadian and had no parish of their own. Nearby Whitensville had a predominantly Irish Catholic parish, and there were numerous Protestant and Armenian churches representing the various ethnic groups and faith among the workers. The French parish would suit the needs of the Little Canadas and Linwood, as these communities were often referred to throughout New England. The growing population of migrated French-Canadian workers would have a church and a school whereby they could have their children receive religious instruction, maintaining their faith, and be taught the French language. Their customs and faith would be reinforced. The Victorian Gothic-style church was built for $20,000. The granite was taken from the nearby Blanchard Quarry. The first services were held in 1906. In Christmas Day, 1909, James E. Whiten donated a plot of land which became the rectory. In October 1920, Reverend Gideon Fontaine obtained permission to build a parish school. The school was later staffed with 14 teachers from the Order of the Presentation of Mary in 1921. Priests like Father Fontaine and Father Blaine served the French-Canadian population for decades, holding French masses and celebration. In later years, with English assimilation, the Good Shepherd parish offered the Mass in French as their first service on Sunday morning. The school closed in 1971 due to lowering enrollment and financial difficulties. The church was sold by the diocese as Good Shepherd united with St. Mary Parish in Uxbridge in 2022. The church, Good Shepherd, served the community for 117 years. Behind me is the Linwood Post Office, another building in the historic district of Linwood. The post office has its own zip code, even though the Linwood was never incorporated as a town. It does have its own postal code. At the conclusion of our talk on the historic Linwood Village, the mill behind me has been converted to a residential status with several small businesses, a barber shop, a restaurant, a liquor store, a brewery, physical therapy, just to name a few. A city needs old buildings to maintain a sense of permanency and heritage, as Rossi said. The area is still reminiscent of the French-Canadian migration, as many of the original ethnic names in the area can easily be found. In recent years, the Linwood Historic District, being included in the Blackstone Valley Heritage Corridor, the National Park Service Rangers, and a host of volunteer organizations continue to tell the stories of its purpose and grandeur. The public history of this area is rich, and much more of its importance is yet to be told. Thank you for allowing me to share the public history of the Linwood Historic District with you today.